Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the game review to Everton's goalless draw against Crystal Palace at the weekend. The opening Premier League game of the season, of course, didn't quite end how we would have liked it to end. However, considering the circumstances towards the back end of the game, it wasn't the worst points that we'll get this season. I still think it's 2 points dropped. We'll go into discussing it a little bit later on in the stream, giving my opinions as to why I think we should have gone on to win the game, even despite being down to 10 men towards the back sort of last 20 minutes. We're obviously going to talk in detail about some of the events of the game. We're going to talk about the game, and we're also going to talk about Henry Onyekuru's move to Monaco a little bit later on in the stream. We'll touch on that one, of course, because, like I say, it is important to discuss it. It's an outgoing transfer, something that we knew was happening for, the past sort of week or so now. Obviously, as you know, the European transfer window is still open, so players can still leave the club to European clubs. Henry Onyekuru's move to Monaco has been in the books for, like I say, the last week or so. It's just being held up by visa issues, but he did get his visa, and now he has left Everton Football Club after being signed by Ronald Koeman and Steve Walsh, never playing a game in an Everton shirt, and us doubling our money on him. So it's a little bit of a strange one, but we'll talk about it, of course, in great detail in today's live stream. Of course, like I said, before we do that, we're going to talk about the Crystal Palace game. It is the game review, so it's more important that we cover the Crystal Palace game because, that's why we're here. Let's be honest. Computer's just playing up a little bit. Give me just 2 seconds. It restarted today, so give me just a couple of seconds to get this sorted. Hopefully we're back up. Left it for a few days, didn't I, after doing a week's full of streaming. Left the computer for a couple of days to rest, and I come back and it's gone up the wall. Tits up, it's gone. Technology, you can never trust it, can you? Bear with me just a couple of seconds if you're in the live comments. I'm just trying to get rid of this message that is on the screen so we can carry on the live stream. Please do let me know if there's any issues as well in the live comments. It'd be really, really appreciative so we can get them sorted as soon as possible, and go into talking about the game as soon as possible as well. Come on. I haven't got time for this. I do apologise about this. Like I said, we'll go into talking about the game. Obviously, we're going to talk about Morgan Schneiderlin sending off. We're going to talk about the chances that we missed. We're going to talk about debuts for Jean-Philippe Gbamin and Moise Kean as well. So some really, really interesting topics to talk about today. Hopefully we are still live. Please do let me know if there's any issues. But everything seems to be back up and running now. So hopefully it stays smooth and remains smooth for the rest of the live stream. I do apologise about that one. A little bit of a shaky start. These things happen when you're live. Can't edit them out. That's just the game that we play. Jeff says, alright Cam, how's life, fella? Alright Jeff, I hope we are doing well. I'm not too bad myself, mate. I had a nice little couple of days off. Obviously after a manic week last week, but ready to get back into it now and to talk about Saturday's game. Luke says, can everyone stop calling Calvert-Lewin shit? We've been in this situation with Walcott and Keane in the past and criticising them needlessly for weeks. Clearly just sends the player backwards. Get behind. Yeah, I agree, Luke. I don't think Dominic Calvert-Lewin is shit. I think it's quite clear that he's a really good footballer, a really promising footballer. And I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin offers us something that is desperately needed in our squad. And it's his work rate and it's his ability to obviously dominate defences and take the ball down from, it being in the air and use the ball well for his teammates. He's not an out-and-out number 9. He's not a goal scorer, and I think that's why some fans maybe jump on saying, he's not brilliant, he's a little bit shit, blah, 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 because he's not scoring consistently week in, week out. However, I know he's a striker, and that should be his job. However, that's not kind of the player he is. He sort of obviously brings his other teammates into the game and holds the ball up well and likes to sort of run with the ball. But I agree, spot on. Listen, criticising them and calling them every name under the sun isn't going to help them whatsoever. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been given a lot of responsibility this season, a lot of responsibility with the number 9 shirt, and he's obviously had conversations with Marco Silva as to say, listen, you're going to have some involvement in the squad this season, so let's just get behind him, give him the support, of course, like we're going to give to Moise Kean. He'll take a little bit of time to bed in as well, so let's get behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin exactly like we would get behind Moise Kean. and carry on obviously supporting this. And it was a disappointing game on Saturday. It was a disappointing result. It was a typical first game of the season. I said it in my instant match reaction. It sort of screamed first game of the season. You could see we weren't quite there in fitness wise, sharpness wise. Some players were making some mistakes. Obviously players like Gylfi Sigurdsson, who we rely on so much for his creativity, didn't have the best game whatsoever. Dominic Calvert-Lewin missed a couple of opportunities. James Coleman missing an opportunity as well. And, not just on our part, on Crystal Palace's part as well. You could see their players were struggling to sort of get their heads down and get on with the game. So it was a typical first game of the season for me. I still think it was 2 points dropped because I still think we had sort of enough opportunities to put the game away. However, we didn't convert them. And that was pretty similar to the Crystal Palace game, sort of the back end of last season when we were playing fantastically well in the league. We went over to Selhurst Park and we were held for a draw and we couldn't get past them, we couldn't break them down, we couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Despite creating a couple of really good opportunities, we couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and that was quite similar to Saturday's game. We created some opportunities that on another day would have gone in, but we couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And I'm putting that down personally to just start of season blues and obviously getting back into it and things being a little bit sluggish. But like I said, for me, it still is 2 points dropped. Evertonian TV says, hello lads. Jeff says hello. Evertonian TV also says, hi Camden, sorry for not getting my Crystal Palace video out, just too busy at the moment. No worries, mate, no worries whatsoever. Evertonian TV says, Calvert-Lewin is still a young lad and people were harsh on Gabam. It's his first game, given time, Rome wasn't built in a day. Exactly, I agree, spot on. We're going to talk about Jean-Philippe Gabam's debut as well as Moise Keane's debut as well, although obviously Gabam had a little bit more of an involvement a little bit later on. Jeff says, time and Wayne, and Wayne says, don't you think we should have spent the Zaha money on a boss striker like Dolberg and play Keane on the left? Would have given us 15 to 20, wouldn't have given us 15 to 20 more goals this season. Keane, Dolberg, Richarlison, top three. It's a good point, however. I think we were sort of holding out on the Zaha deal till the very last minute, and I think as soon as it became apparent that we weren't going to sign Zaha, it was then too late for us to go out and make a deal happen for anybody else. I dare say Marcel Brands has got players like Dolberg in his on his list, and obviously there to approach in the next coming transfer windows. However, like I said, we held a lot for the Wilfried Zaha deal, and we held out for it, and Crystal Palace just played hard ball throughout the entirety of the last sort of week of the transfer window. But I agree, would be an absolutely fantastic addition to the squad. I'm just going to tweet today's stream out so everybody knows we are live, and come over and join us on Twitter if you are in the live comments. Don't forget, like I said, get your thoughts in about Saturday's game. Were you impressed? Were you disappointed? Did you expect the result? Let me know your thoughts. If you're enjoying the stream as well, please hit that like button. It would really mean a massive amount to me. Recently it's 700 subscribers as well on Saturday, so a massive thank you for that. Like I said, the road to 1,000 is on now. It really is. But anyway, let's just dive straight into talking about the game, because I think obviously it's the game review. That's why we're here to talk about the game. Like I said, I put an instant match reaction out straight after the game had ended on Saturday afternoon, giving my raw thoughts. And like I said in that, I still think it was, a typical first game of the season. I wasn't impressed by the performances of some senior players. However, like I said, sitting back and taking everything into consideration and actually looking at it, from a point of view as to, like I said, having a couple of days to think about it, you do start to realise, well, okay, it is, first Premier League game of the season. The players still aren't as fit, still aren't as sharp as that we'd like them to be sort of in the next few weeks and months. Obviously, like I said, we had the better of the opportunities, undoubtedly, from sort of 2 p.m. when the team news was released and announced, and we seen the starting 11 that Marco Silva was fielding, very similar to the starting 11 that myself and I think a lot of you would have predicted. Obviously, I went with Gabam in there just purely out of hope, but Marco Silva went with Morgan Schneider, and I think, realistically, if we'd have all sat there last Wednesday and had a little think about the team, you'd have probably predicted it spot on. Obviously, like I said, Morgan Schneider being in there, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Bernard being the front three. We had the opportunities to win the game. We had the opportunities to kill the game off. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, as expected, Wilfried Zaha didn't start the game. We weren't sure whether he'd be on the bench or whether he'd just not be involved whatsoever. He was on the bench, of course, come on a little bit later on in the game. Didn't do much when he come on, however, still featured. And I think, I said this before the game, it's always a tough place to go, Selhurst Park, because what you had on Saturday, you didn't just have a team that were at home, first game of the season. You didn't just have a team that had kept hold of their key man. You had a side that we were facing that had sort of in their minds, won the battle on sort of Wilfried Zaha ahead of us. Obviously, we were the team that were heavily linked with Zaha. We were the team that he was going to leave to join. He didn't. He stayed at Crystal Palace, and the fans sort of fed off that. The Crystal Palace fans fed off that, and you see them. They were up. They were roaring. They were willing. They were up for it. And, you know, like you said, it was a tough environment for the lads, and I think that's part and parcel of the reasons to why Kabam struggled when he come on. Not using it as an excuse. However, like I said, a tough place to go, and the opportunities that we created really should have been put away. You look at Gylfi Sigurdsson within the first 10-15 minutes, the ball comes out to him 12 yards out, and he tries to side-foot it into the side of the net, strangely enough, instead of just putting his foot through it and proper wellying it. If he'd have put his foot through it and proper wellied it, would have been 1-0 up, and at that point, when you're 1-0 up against a side like Palace, who haven't got the star man on the pitch, who's just, you know, the star man kicked up a fuss in the last week about leaving the club, you know, that their heads would have dropped and then would have been able to go on and create more opportunities, but we didn't. Gylfi obviously scuffed his opportunity, it went wide. Seamus Coleman then had one about 5-10 minutes later where the ball come to him. Granted, he done a little bit better, he got it on target. However, again, for me, 10-15 yards out, Seamus really should be putting that in the back of the net. There's no excuse for that for me. He's got it at his feet and he hits it right at the goalkeeper. He could have put it anywhere else. You know, very, very similar to Gylfi Sigurdsson's. And at that point, you're sort of sitting there and you're thinking, is this going to be another one of those games where we rue these opportunities? Is this going to be another one of those games where we're sitting there and we're thinking, you know what, this might come back to bite us on the arse here. The game had Wilfried Zaha substitution and winning goal written all over it. Obviously, absolutely made up that it didn't happen. Zaha ends up coming on and didn't have much of an involvement in the game, but like I said, these are the opportunities that you're looking at and you're thinking we really need to be putting them away. And it was exactly the same as the Crystal Palace game towards the back end of last season when we were creating, you know, opportunities here and there and we just weren't converting them. And you're sitting there thinking, it's such an important time in the season, we need to be winning this game of football, and we weren't clinical enough. Again, a little bit different obviously on Saturday, first game of the season. You sort of expect it to be a little bit sluggish. You'd expect players to be a little bit, you know, not as sharp as you'd like them to be. Obviously there was nothing really to fight for, so it was a little bit different, but again, we were wasteful with our opportunities. Again, we weren't creating an awful lot, but what we were creating, we were sort of, you know, we were skewing, and like I said, Sigurdsson putting his shot wide, Seamus putting his shot right at the keeper. And I think the one thing I really took from sitting there watching the game, you know, when you could sort of see the game progressing and you could see us struggling to create opportunities, and then when we were creating them, not putting them away, I was sitting there thinking Alex Iwobi is going to have a massive impact on this squad because he brings us something different. Now I want to touch on Gylfi Sigurdsson's performance on Saturday, because I'm not going to sit here and dig him out. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's shite, he needs to be replaced, he's not good enough. He had a poor game on Saturday. He had a really poor game, and you know what? It's just unlucky for Gylfi that that's come out the first game of the season and more people were interested in, you know, in the performances, and obviously the emotions were a little bit heightened. That's just unlucky for Gylfi. Gylfi will have another probably 4 or 5 of them games in the next sort of few months in the season, but he'll also have 10 games where he's absolutely fantastic, and you know, he's spraying balls left, right and centre, he's assisting, he's scoring goals. For me, Gylfi Sigurdsson was anonymous on Saturday. He really was. I know we were playing with 10 men once Morgan Schneiderlin went off, but we were pretty much playing with 10 men for me throughout the entirety of the game, because obviously the opportunity that he had, he wasted, and every other time he picked up the ball, he was wasteful on it as well. He wasn't quick. It was like almost like he wasn't thinking, his mind wasn't in the right place. And I was sitting there thinking, you know what, in times like this when Gylfi isn't having, you know, the best game of football ever, when maybe, you know, you can see that he's not ready, this would be the perfect time to bring on somebody like an Alex Iwobi who can play in that number 10 role, who brings us a different level of creativity, a different style of creativity. Now, I know Marco Silva's come out in recent weeks, obviously after, in the last week, after Alex Iwobi signed, and said that he sees him as a left midfielder. That's fair enough, but there's no hard in the fact that he played in the number 10 role when he was at Arsenal. There's no hard in the fact that he can play in that number 10 role. And I was sitting there on Saturday and I was thinking, you know what, Gylfi's a little bit absent in this game. You're not seeing much of him. You're not really hearing him at all. Whereas, you know, like I said, he'll have games where you don't, you know, you can't get rid of him, but on Saturday he was poor, and that was sort of the chance where you'd look at it and you think, well, maybe this is the opportunity for an Alex Iwobi to come in. Now obviously he wasn't on the bench, he wasn't eligible to play, so you know that's irrelevant in terms of Saturday, but I'm just thinking going forward, it was the sort of game that you were looking at thinking, this is screaming out for a more creative player, this is screaming out for a player that's, you know, more on the ball, because Gylfi, you know, whether he wasn't ready, whether his head wasn't there, he just didn't perform well, whether he just had a shit game, maybe he's just had a poor game. and that was it. And it's unlucky that it's come on the first game of the season, but maybe Gylfi's just had a shocker. And players have them, of course. Gylfi's not prone to having poor games, neither is any other player. Maybe he just had a really poor game, but in those moments where players like Gylfi, it was so important to the team, so important to how we attack, so important to us creating opportunities. In them moments where players like him are having poor games, it's vitally important to be able to have somebody to step in and fill them boots if need be. And that's why Alex Iwobi is being brought in. And I was sitting there thinking, this is screaming out for Alex Iwobi or some more creativity. And it was pretty similar in the situation with Dominic Calvert-Lewin throughout the game on Saturday as well. We were sitting there, and obviously Moise Kean was on the bench. And I understand Marco Silva doesn't want to rush him in. I understand Marco Silva doesn't want to sort of rely on him too early on. He is still a young lad. He's moved country. Obviously, he's playing in a different league. But we were sort of sitting there on Saturday, for me anyway, and thinking, Dom's not really involved in this game. Dom's not creating enough. Dom's not doing enough for me. This is screaming out for a striker like Moise Kean to come on and impact this game. And obviously, we've seen him in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the game. But like we said, the circumstance for Moise Kean's a little bit different. He's just joined the football club. He's a new league, new country, so it's going to be difficult for him. But again, that was a situation for me where later on in the season, Marco Silva could maybe look at it and go, right, this is now the chance for Kean to come off the bench and give us a little bit more up front. This is the chance for Iwobi to come off the bench and be a little bit more creative. Because what Alex Iwobi gives you, and very similar to Djibril Sidibe, even despite the fact he's a right back, is it's direct play. They play the ball to players' feet. They don't always look for the overhead ball. They don't always look for the cross. They'll play the ball directly to players' feet. And if you have got a striker with the ability of Moise Kean sitting in that box, and you've got somebody like Alex Iwobi who's spraying it to his feet, or Djibril Sidibe who's spraying it to his feet, then for me, he's really gonna sort of benefit off that. I seen a heat map of of Moise Kean's touches in the 20 to 30 minutes he was on Saturday, and I don't think one was in the opposition box, and that's not his fault. What I picked up on, and I said it in the instant match reaction, what I picked up on is he was actually using his movement really well. He was using his brain well. He was moving well. Yes. The odd time that he got the ball, he was a little bit, obviously, he wasn't as sharp as you'd like him to be, but that's understandable. He's just come in, it's the opening game of the season. He hasn't had much of a pre-season either, obviously, with the transfer talks and stuff, but his movement off the ball and his football and brain, you can see, is very, very clearly there. And once he's had a few more weeks in training, once he's had a little bit more game time, you can see what type of a player he is going to be. And like I said, he brings that direct play. So does Alex Iwobi, and that's what we needed on Saturday. That's what we lacked, somebody to directly pass the ball to other players' feet. And that, for me, like I said, was badly needed, because we didn't create an awful lot of opportunities on Saturday, and the opportunities we created, we were really, really wasteful with. Like I said, Sigurdsson didn't have his best game whatsoever. Now, that might just be a poor game, and that's absolutely fair enough. If you just have a poor game, that's fair enough. DCL didn't have his best game either. Again, that might just be a poor game. I don't think it's fair to jump on these players and say they're not good enough. They're shocking, they shouldn't be in the first team, because I think, DCL clearly proved towards the back end of last season that, he's got a place in this team. He offers us something that nobody else offers us. And Gylfi Sigurdsson, obviously, joint top goal scorer last season, speaks for itself. An absolutely fantastic footballer, a really creative footballer as well. Just wasn't on his day, of course, on Saturday. And again, that's part and parcel as the reason why we didn't, finish the game off, because we couldn't create the opportunities, and when we were creating the opportunities, we couldn't put them away. If you're enjoying the team so far, please do hit the like button. It really does mean a massive amount to me. If you haven't already, please do subscribe as well. Without in the live comments, Jeff says, it's to be hoped that having a larger pool of options will lead to more goals. Kean will score a few, and hopefully Iwobi will provide a different approach and more direct. Exactly, and that's spot on. That's exactly what we needed on Saturday for me, a different approach. It was quite clear for me, half an hour, 40 minutes in, certainly within the first half, that, it wasn't working with Gylfi Sigurdsson. He wasn't on his game, and he wasn't creating enough opportunities. That would have been the perfect time to bring in an Alex Iwobi and say, right, now it's your opportunity, offer us something different, go out and make Crystal Palace a little bit worried, make them think, oh, what's he going to bring? Is he different to Gylfi Sigurdsson? Where is he going to play? How is he going to play? Is he going to be more direct? Is he going to, is it going to be over the top? Offer us something different, and I honestly think that would have, possibly given us what we needed to win that game of football. Obviously, it's all if buts and maybes. He couldn't play, he wasn't eligible to play, and that's fair enough. However, like I said, I was just sitting there on Saturday watching it, and I was thinking, this is calling for a little bit more creativity, a little bit more freshness, a little bit more pace. We looked a little bit hesitant at the time to run at Crystal Palace, and I said in the instant match reaction I thought Seamus Coleman had a poor game, and somebody jumped in the comments and said that, how did you think Seamus Coleman had a poor game? I thought he was decent, and that's absolutely fair enough. But what I meant by poor game, I don't think he was generally that bad defensively. In fact, I think the defence was fantastic, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But going forward again, he seemed hesitant. He was getting the ball and he'd sprint for a little bit, but then he'd stop. He'd look a little bit sheepish. He wouldn't want to go that extra mile. And again, that's why I was sitting there thinking, when Djibril Sidibe's fit and when Djibril Sidibe's knocking on the door, that's another option for Marco Silva to bring in and go, right, you need to be, we need more direction down that right-hand side. So I'm bringing Sidibe in now to run at teams, because teams like Crystal Palace, you need to run at. And I honestly think if we'd have ran at them a little bit more in that game, we'd have broken them down and we'd have created more opportunities. And then it's only a matter of time before one goes in. But again, like I said, Luca Dean was guilty of it as well on the left-hand side. He didn't have his greatest game going forward, a little bit shyish, when approaching players. And that's what I meant by saying Seamus had a poor game. Evertonian TV says, can't wait for Iwobi. Yes, me and neither, of course. We've seen him in an Everton shirt yesterday. We've seen his little message to the fans as well. Marco Silva's come out and, spoken about Alex Iwobi. The rumour is that, he won't be directly involved in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, was to be understood because he's just come back from the African Cup of Nations. He hasn't had much of a pre-season whatsoever. So again, expect Alex Iwobi to come in bits and bobs, substitution appearances and stuff like that before he really hits the ground running. Wayne says, we got money to spend in January on Yukuru, gone for peanuts. Hope we get 25% sale on Man United. Owe us 5 mil from Lukaku's sale. Yeah, we've got that 5 million from Manchester United, obviously, for the sale of Lukaku. So says, loads of people slating Kabam, and I actually seen a lot of positives in him, considering he was thrown in like that when he's not ready. Good passing and movement, and always looking forward. He'll be good. Yeah, we'll talk about Kabam in just a second. Wayne says, Schneiderlin's I'm not going to read that, but we'll talk about Schneiderlin as well. Wayne also said, do you think we will sell Niasse and Tosin and Balassi, or just Niasse, Balassi? Hope they ain't loans again. Garbutt's on fire. Yes, I think we'll sell Niasse and Balassi. Or Niasse and Balassi. I don't think Tosin will go just because of the options up front. Jeff says, we are clearly undercooked with the AFCON and Copa America. We've had to wait for players to join pre-season, and our late additions are still unpacking. Patience required. Spot on, mate. Absolutely spot on. Kevin says, hi Cam, I think TCL is just not good enough. I really think we will struggle for goals this season. I know we have bought well, but for me, still need a top striker. I know you might disagree. That's fair enough, and you know what? I can't disagree with that. I can't, because I really, really rate Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I do, but I don't think he's an out-and-out goal scorer, and I understand where fans are coming from saying he's not an out-and-out goal scorer. In terms of, obviously, Moise Kean, it'll be interesting to see how he develops. Listen, he's got the potential to score 20, 25 goals a season, maybe not this season, but like I said, that is only potential at the minute. He needs to live up to that. He's not going to have who knows, maybe he will hit the ground running straight away, but it's going to be difficult for him, like you said, young lad in a new league, in a new country. So I 100% get your point saying that we should have brought an experienced head in. Jeff says, Keane is going to be banging them in, Kevin, and Kevin says, I hope so, mate. Let's hope so. Wayne says, not enough to Mitch pressure, needs the consistent goal scorer. Squad is short again. Fair enough. Jeff says he's like an Italian Rooney, Kevin. He's ready now. Age is no problem. I hope so. We'll soon see in the next coming weeks. Wayne says, bro, they're class. He is a fantastic player. Jeff says, when we go 4-3-3, would be awesome. Delph, Kabam and Gomez and Iwobi, Keane and Richarlison with the quality of Bainey and Sigurdsson on the bench. Oof, what a strong bench that looks. Shabba says, I've got to admit, Moise does look good and strong, but we've got to be careful. The Premier League is unforgiving. Spot on, Shabba, sorry. Jeff says, this kid grew up playing barefoot with a stolen ball. I promise you, Keane will not struggle one bit like Rooney. He's just ready. I hope you're right, mate. I really, really do hope you're right. Like I said, we'll soon see in the next couple of weeks. And I think what we see from Moise Keane's debut on Saturday, we'll touch on it in a little bit more detail in literally a second. I think what we seen was a player that's, like I said, his football and brain is definitely there. His movement's there. He just needs to be a little bit more sharper on the ball. And obviously that comes naturally because he hasn't had a long pre-season. He's obviously been in negotiations with Everton for some time. So that will come naturally over the next couple of weeks once he's trained a little bit more. But he looks shit hot in training, that's for sure. Mikey says, Schneiderlin shouldn't have started in the first place. Too defensive for a game like Palace, which we should win. I agree. He is quite a defensive player and we should have won that game. Spot on. Shabba said, I hope you're right, Jeff. He looks a beast. He certainly doesn't. Jeff says, Mike, we had Gomez and Siggy as an attacking-minded midfielder. Schneiderlin needed for balance. Fair enough. We'll talk about Morgan Schneiderlin, like I said, in just a second. I suppose, the sort of only massive thing that happened in the game was obviously, like I said, the sending off of Morgan Schneiderlin. We had a couple of opportunities here and there. They had a couple of opportunities. Jordan Pickford forced to make a couple of really, really good saves. I think he had a good game. The defence was quite solid throughout the entirety of the game, like I said. We'll touch on that soon. But Morgan Schneiderlin sending off, of course, was the biggest sort of talking point of the game. And I think I wanted to talk about sort of the midfield options now, because we were going into this game. We ended the transfer window on Thursday. We spoke about it in the transfer roundup. We spoke about it in the preview about how we're a little bit short centre half wise. Obviously we've got Michael Keane, we've got Yerry Mina, but other than that, we're really, really short. Obviously, Marco Silva sees Mason Holgate as centre half covered, and he sees obviously Morgan Feeney and Lewis Gibson. However, they're three players that aren't Premier League experienced. I know Mason's had a little bit of experience in the Premier League, but for me, he's not Premier League ready yet. The other two, very little experience in the first team, never mind in the Premier League. We spoke about how weak we were in terms of options for the centre halves, and now, don't get me wrong, I think Michael Keane and Yerry Mina could form a fantastic partnership, but if one of them gets injured, if one of them gets suspended, which is quite a possible during the course of the season, then we are a little bit screwed. We've come out of the game now being short in midfield options as well, after watching the defence have a fantastic game, and the reason for that is obviously we knew Fabian Delph was injured before the start of the game. We knew Jean-Philippe Gbamin wasn't ready. He said that himself, that he wasn't ready, and that was why Marco Silva went with the choice to keep him on the bench. Obviously, Andre Gomez limped off towards the back end of the first half with an ankle injury. He has since had a scan at Finch Farm yesterday. We haven't had any results yet. We haven't heard anything from it. We've just been told by the club that he's had a scan. They hope it's nothing too serious, but he'll continue to have further scans, which again, I suppose, is positive that they still hope it's nothing serious. However, not the best news, because if it wasn't that serious, after one scan they'd be able to say, oh yeah, it's just a knock, get on with it. But he's got to have further scans on that. So we've come out of this game looking short on midfield options. We've got Fabian Delph, who's out injured for another couple of weeks. You've got Andre Gomez, who's now injured, and who knows how long he's going to be out for. Hopefully not too long. You've got Morgan Schneiderlin, who's now suspended, and you've got Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who was pretty much thrown in the deep end. And I think some of the criticism was really, really unfair on Jean-Philippe Gbamin, and we'll talk about him in a sec. Like I said, you've now got Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who's going to take up one of the centre defensive midfield spots, and then we will be looking at the likes of Tom Davis to fill the other spot, maybe even a Sigurdsson, and bringing in an Iwobi to play in the number 10 role. And like I said, all of a sudden we signed 3 central midfielders in the summer, and now after one game of football, after 90 minutes of football, we're looking short in that position because of injuries and suspensions. Now, I want to touch on the Morgan Schneiderlin sending off, and I'll touch on it firstly, and then we'll go on to talking about Gbamin's debut, because for me, I just think it's childish. I do. I think it's really, really stupid. And I spoke about it in the instant match reaction, and I've seen since a few things on Twitter that have caught my eye a little bit. One of them being sort of a fan giving a load of stats on Morgan Schneiderlin's recent performances for Everton, and that's absolutely fair enough. Obviously, Morgan Schneiderlin sent off for 2 yellow cards. What the first one for me is the one I have the issue with. The second one is it's a silly foul from behind. It's a foul that Morgan Schneiderlin commits a good 5 times in a game. Idrissa Gueye used to commit it multiple times in a game. It's a professional, it's one of those fouls that the player's not really moving, and you just whip him up. And it probably is a yellow card in the grand scheme of things. You've seen players get away with it before. You've seen players get carded with it before. So I don't really have an issue with the second yellow. It's the first yellow for me. And I watched it, and I watched it live, and I watched it again on Match of the Day, and I watched it again, and I thought, what is he doing? What actually is he doing? Now, I don't know if you've seen him, I assume you all have, but obviously he makes a challenge and he gets the ball, and fair enough, he gets the ball, and John Moss makes an absolute shocking decision once again, gives a foul. But listen, we know what you get with John Moss. He's a dickhead. He's a shocking referee. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like the rest of them in the league, they don't know what to do, and he gives the foul, and he isn't going to book him initially. Again, it's one of those fouls where Morgan Schneiderlin goes in for the tackle, wins the ball. John Moss obviously sees something that none of us do, gives the foul, and I think after it was the yellow card, and for me was just a little bit strange behaviour from Morgan Schneiderlin, and like I said, a little bit childish. Obviously he's not very happy with Moss's decision to give the foul. He thinks he's won the ball, and that's absolutely fair enough. Now, bearing in mind this is the first half of the first game of the season, Schneiderlin hadn't been bullied all game, he hadn't been kicked all game, he hadn't been committing fouls consistently all game. He might have given 1 or 2 away, but it wasn't like the referee was picking on him too much. And I'm not going to stick up for John Moss in this situation because it wasn't a foul in the first place, but he commits this foul and then throws himself on the floor and punches the ground 3 times. Now, I understand that he was frustrated, and I understand that players get frustrated, and listen, if he'd have committed a foul, let's say, and it was a sliding tackle and he'd have won the ball and Moss gives us a free kick and he's already on the floor and he punches the floor and he gets up, you can go, well, okay, your anger's got a little bit of a better of you there. If, you know, he stands up and says to Moss, what are you fucking doing? That's not a foul. You can go, you know what? Fair enough, you know, it's not a foul, it's a stupid decision, you can understand that. But he stands up, he flips himself around and he punches the floor. I don't know if you watch the wrestling. I watched the wrestling as a kid, you know, pretty much my entire childhood, and I don't know if anybody knows, before Randy Orton sets up for the RKO, he does this mad 360 spin and throws himself on the floor and starts punching the floor, and that's exactly what Morgan Schneiderlin done. And I was looking at it and I was thinking, what are you doing, lad? It's embarrassing. You're embarrassing yourself. You've been given a yellow card there for overreacting and, you know, acting childish, basically. And that's what he done. He threw himself on the floor and he punched the ground 3 times. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, I understand that he's frustrated. I understand that it wasn't a foul. And I understand that, you know, he's probably a little bit annoyed at the referee. But like I said, within the first half of the first game of the season, he's not 6 months into a struggling Premier League season where, you know, he's being kicked constantly every single game, or he's having fouls given against him for every time he looks at a player. It's the first game of the season. He's committed 1 foul and he's threw himself on the floor and punched the floor. And I had no issues with the yellow card because I honestly think it was stupid. It was childish from Morgan Schneiderlin. He goes on the floor and he punches it. And I think the second yellow, like I said, it's a foul. Whether it's a yellow card or not, you can debate that. I've seen it given as a yellow, I've seen it not given as a yellow, but regardless, it's the challenge that Morgan Schneiderlin obviously isn't remembering that he's already been booked for something earlier on in the game. He makes that challenge and he gets sent off, but the first one really, really got on my nerves because I think it's just stupid and it wasn't needed whatsoever. He could have a go at the referee, like I said, if he was on the floor he could punch it in anger, but to be standing up, throw yourself on the floor and then punch the floor 3 times, it's just a bit like, what are you doing? Like, why are you acting the tit then? There's no need for it whatsoever. He got himself a yellow card, and then it was always known from that point on. Morgan Schneiderlin gives a challenge away like a second one every single game without fail. He kicks somebody up in the middle of the park and he gets a yellow card. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, that's fine because it's a tactical foul. It stops the play, it breaks down the play, and it slows the play down. And that's absolutely fine 99% of the time. But when you're already on a yellow card, it's not fine whatsoever. And the fact that the first yellow card was for something so petty and something so stupid really got on my nerves because I was watching that and I was thinking, obviously after he got the second yellow, I was sitting there and I was thinking, nice one, lad, because now we're short in midfield options. You've just seen your teammate in Andre Gomez, you know, limp off with an injury. Who knows how long he'll be out for? And you've gone and got yourself sent off first game of the season, and now we're even shorter in midfield options. And I want to touch on something that I've seen on Twitter over the last couple of days. I'm ranting a little bit, and again, I'm not going in hard on Morgan Schneiderlin. The second yellow was what it was, and the first yellow was childish. It is what it is. I hope he learns from it. But I want to go into something that I've seen on Twitter, and it was an Everton fan put up the stats of Morgan Schneiderlin, Everton's performances while Morgan Schneiderlin's been playing. Now, I understand he got a little bit of stick after the game, and I understand that, you know, some fans jumped on it and called him stupid and whatever, because of the sending off. And I think that's warranted. I think it was a silly sending off, and I think it was silly by the player himself. You know, some fans jumped on it, and, you know, some fans obviously, as usual, went a little bit too far, started criticising him as a player. I don't think it was. I actually think towards the back end of last season, Morgan Schneiderlin was one of our best players, if not our best player, in the last 10 to 12 weeks. He was consistent, his performances were fantastic, and he stepped in when Andre Gomez was injured when he really needed to. Now, this fan had put up a list of all of the results that Morgan Schneiderlin, in the last sort of 10 to 12 weeks of the season, last season, he put up all the games that were played, all the games that Schneiderlin had played in, and the games that he hadn't played in. And obviously, you know, like I said, I thought he was fantastic towards the back end of last season, and he, you know, it showed that in the results. It showed that the games that he played in with won or with, you know, with drew, with kept clean sheets, and the games that he hadn't played in with lost. And you know what, I was looking at that and I was thinking, yeah, that's fair enough. His performances towards the back end of last season was absolutely fantastic. It really were fantastic, and it was almost like, and it ironic now we're talking about how it was childish is sending off, it was almost like he matured, because we seen him, you know, towards the start of last season, towards the end of the season before, you know, didn't really look interested when he was on the pitch. He didn't look like he wanted to play. He was sulking a lot. He wasn't giving us all for the team. And what it seemed like towards the back end of last season was that he'd actually grown up a little bit. And I know it's mad to be saying this about, you know, somebody that's 30 odd years old, but he'd actually just thought, you know what, I'm going to knuckle down here, I'm going to get my head sorted. Now, I don't know whether he was doing that with the intent of leaving the club in the summer, and like we spoke about that, like I said, towards the back end of last season when we spoke about his performances, and we said he's been absolutely fantastic, and, you know, he's been absolutely fantastic, and his performance has been great. Is this because he wants a move in the summer. Obviously, he didn't get his move, but I just think again it was like, there's no need to do that. You put us in trouble there when you could have just kept your calm a little bit, and like I said, gone on with it and accepted it. I've seen a comment there. Jeff says, Cameron, are you really having a go at Snyder for being passionate and emotional? You can't control your emotions. It's not like he planned it. I understand that. I do, and I get, listen, if he's passionate, I'm just as passionate, and there's at least a million times in a game of football that I want to punch the floor instead of punching a referee, and I want to scream in a referee's face, but I just think it was a little bit over the top. I understand if it's passion, if it's, if it's emotion and he can't help it, I get that, I really do get that, but I just think it was a little bit over the top for what the situation was. If it, like I said, if it had been given a penalty against him, you'd understand it. If it had happened multiple times in the game and he'd have been picked on, you'd understand it. But personally, I just think it was a little bit over the top and a little bit childish from Snydland. But that's your opinion. That's absolutely fair enough. I just think players can show passion in different ways, and that's not the type of way I want a player to show passion. I want him to show passion by getting up and going, right, you know what, I'm going to work my absolute bollocks off here then, and I'm going to not get a second yellow card, and I'm going to put in a top performance here, and I'm going to put in fantastic tackles and make sure the referee doesn't have anything else to put on me. But like I said, opinion's an opinion, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so thank you very much, Jeff. But like I said, for me, it's left us in a little bit of a dodgy situation. And like I said, that tweet was put up, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what, yeah, Morgan Schneiderlin had, he was decent towards the back end of last season. He put in some really, really good performances. He had a poor game on Saturday. It is what it is. But his wife retweeted it, quote tweeted it with the sort of the hand emojis, and you could understand it, because it's clear some fans had jumped on his back and some fans had started to, obviously, as fans do, go a little bit over the top with it and criticise his whole career and his performances and stuff. And I don't think that is fair, because I think, genuinely, like I said, towards the back end of last season, he was performing well. He was. But I think it's fair to criticise what he done on Saturday afternoon. And I think, him as a player, that's where it needs to start. He needs to recognise that the first yellow card on Saturday was something that he could have avoided easily. I know it's passion, I know it's emotion, but he could have avoided it. He should have known full well, with John Moss as the referee, that if he was to do something like that, he was going to get booked for it. And he should have known full well that he was going to commit a tactical foul later on in the game that was going to see him get a second yellow. But he didn't see that, and I think as long as the player himself turns around and goes, you know what, I probably shouldn't have done that, then fair enough, you move on from it. But I don't know, like I said, for me, it just wasn't necessary. It really, really wasn't. And it's now left us in a situation where you're looking, thinking, well, we've got Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who obviously come on, and, I thought he played okay, but you could see he struggled at points. He said himself he's not ready. He's going to be nervous. He now has to start against Watford on Saturday. And then you've got Tom Davies and players like that, who, don't get me wrong, I thought Tom come on Saturday and had a decent game. However, he's being forced into the team now through, injuries and suspensions and stuff. If you're not enjoying the scene so far, please do leave a like. It really, really does mean a massive, massive amount to me. Where are we in the live comments? Where are we? Jeff says, Mike, we had Gomez and Sigurdsson as like-minded. Oh, neither for balance. We read that one. Mike says, think Sigurdsson should be dropped as he doesn't create enough consistently for me. Fair enough. And again, that's the partly the reason as to why I'm so excited to see Alex Iwobi in an Everton shirt, because it's something different. Not saying that Alex Iwobi is a better footballer than Sigurdsson, not saying that he'll create more opportunities, not saying he's more consistent, but it's something different. He's a player that will create opportunities, and he is a really, really good footballer. And like I said, he's somebody that can come in, and that when Gylfi isn't having his best game, Gylfi can step out and he can step in for. Where are we? I've lost the comments again. Here we go. Wayne says, get Sigurdsson off penalties, give them to Dean or Jordan Pickford. Jeff says, let's all talk about Mina. He bossed it. We lack cover, but as a pair, I'm not feeling it. Yes, we'll talk about the defence in just a second. Spot on, I agree. We do lack cover, and that's my only worry. But I'm happy with Michael Keane and Yerry Mina as the two centre-halves for this season. I thought they were fantastic on Saturday. Wayne says, have good history, left-back banging in penalties, Unsworth Baines. We do. Jeff says David looked alright when he come on. Davis looked alright when he come on. Yeah, I agree, spot on, like I said. I thought he'd done really, really well. He'd done exactly what he needed to do. He come on, obviously, with Marco Silva's instructions to just see the game out, tactically see the game out, and he done that fantastically. Malcolm says, Mina was mint, I agree with that. Well said, mate. Come on, you Blues. Spot on. Jeff says, Snadlin played 14 games last season and we did not lose a single one of them. I agree, and I'm not criticising Snadlin as a player. I'm not saying he's shocking, he should never play again, he's awful. I think he was fantastic towards the back end of last season. I just think he's let himself down a little bit on Saturday, and he's let the club down as well, because we're now in a situation where we've lost three of our arguably most important and senior midfielders there, and now we've got to rely on, like I said, Tom Davies, who I think is a decent player, but he's now in a situation where he's being forced into the squad, along with Jean-Philippe Gbamin, who hasn't played more than sort of 60 minutes in an Everton shirt, and we seen on Saturday, although he played well in my opinion, he did struggle at times. Mikey says, we saw Gay make that tackle so many times, but he wasn't stupid enough to commit again. Yeah, I don't think the second tackle was that bad, to be honest. I think you could even argue that it wasn't a yellow card. For me, it was just the silliness of the first yellow. Jeff says, fans just need someone to blame. It's always someone's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. Again, like I said, I don't think Schneiderlin was to blame for us not winning the game. I think if you're blaming Schneiderlin, you could equally blame Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You could equally blame Gylfi Sigurdsson. You could equally blame, Seamus Coleman for not converting their opportunities. I'm not blaming Schneiderlin. I just think it was a little bit silly considering the situation we're in. Jeff says, thanks Malcolm. Wayne says, Davis starts Saturday if Gomez is out. Have a good one, Cam. Cool video. Keep liking. Come on, you Blues. Everton till I die. Nil status is the optimum. Thank you very much, Wayne. Really, really do appreciate that. Jeff says, 26 watching, 6 likes. Come on, lads, support the channel. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much for your support. As usual, Bradley says, that's Schneiderlin comparison to Randy Orton. Yeah, just come out of nowhere that. Jeff obviously says about having a go at Schneiderlin. I'm not having a go at him. I just think it could have been avoided. And looking back at it now, we really needed it to be avoided, didn't we? Mitchell says, if you're doing that at 30 odd, you'll never learn. That was embarrassing, and Jeff, that was embarrassing childish, mates. He should know better. I just think, like I said, given the circumstance, it would have been nicer if he wouldn't have done it, and we could have obviously had him available for Saturday. And Malcolm says, how is Gomez as he got injured on Saturday? We don't know an awful lot about his injury yet. Like I said, he's had a scan recently at Finch Farm. We still haven't received any information about that. All we know is that he'll continue to have scans throughout this week, and hopefully it won't be too serious. However, I'm not too sure he'll be able to play on Saturday. Jeff says, I've seen it from managers in the 60s. They don't choose to react. That is what reaction means. It's an uncontrolled response. And he also says, Klopp, Mourinho, Guardiola have all done exactly the same as football passion. It's the whole point. I much prefer that than not caring at all. Fair enough. Spot on, mate. And you know what? I agree. Football is all about passion, and you want the players to be passionate, and you want to see passion. You want to see players getting in referees' faces and arguing their point. I agree with that one. I personally just think, it was a little bit childish and maybe could have been avoided. But that's my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. So, fair enough. Let me know what you think on the Morgan Schneiderlin situation in the comment section down below. It'll be really, really interesting to hear what everybody else has to say. Evertonian CV says, you have any other tips for my channel? Just carry on going, mate. Consistency. Obviously, cover as much as you can. Be yourself. Give your own opinions. And obviously incorporate everybody else's opinions as well, especially if it's a fan channel. Jeff says, show your face. No one watches a screenshot. Fair enough. Evertonian TV says, thanks for that. And Ian says, hope Gomez is back straight away. Let's hope so. Let's hope it's nothing too serious. Let's hope that he can sort of get himself back to full fitness and go again. Anyway, like I said, moving on now to touch on obviously the two debutantes, however you say that, on Saturday. Obviously, we've seen Jean-Philippe Gbamin come on a little bit earlier than he would have liked, a little bit earlier than Marco Silva would have liked, and we've seen Moise Kean come on towards the back end of the game. Now, in terms of Jean-Philippe Gbamin, like I said, seen a little bit of criticism from him. From fans towards his performance on Saturday. I think it's really, really important that when we're discussing Jean-Philippe Gbamin's performance, when we're having a little look at it, we do take into consideration the major factors to that. He himself said he wasn't ready to start the game, and he was brought in, before even the end of the first half, obviously due to an injury to Andre Gomez. It was quite clear that he wasn't ready in terms of fitness, he wasn't ready in terms of sharpness, and it was quite clear that he was, uncontrollably nervous as well. You could see that when he come on, that he was nervous himself. However, I think he played well in parts. I really, really do. Don't get me wrong. He lost the ball a couple of times, and he was caught in possession a couple of times, and I understand where the frustration comes from that. However, there was also a couple of times that he actually lost the ball, but he used his body weight to win a foul. He used his body weight to win the ball back, and I really think that's really important. And I watched that, and I specifically remember looking at one situation where the ball come to him, he took a heavy touch, it ran away from him, a Crystal Palace player come over to try and pick the ball up, and he put his body in the way, and he won a foul, and that shows again the footballing brain on, and that shows again the intelligence from the footballer himself, as to sit there and think, you know what, I'm not as sharp as I should be. I'm not as fit as I should be, but I still am aware of what I'm doing. And his brain told him there, get in the way, win the foul. And again, like I said, what you've seen from Jean-Philippe Gbamin on Saturday was a player that very clearly likes to go forward, very clearly likes to create opportunities, likes to push the ball forward. You know, a little bit different to what we've been used to in a Ghana guy who, you know, sits back and sweeps up. He's not exactly the same. He mightn't be able to do the defensive duties as good as Ghana could, but like I said, he's more attacking minded. He brings the ball forward and he enjoys doing that. On Saturday, it was clear that he wasn't ready. He said himself he wasn't ready. I think we have to take that in consideration when we're looking at his performance, like I said. But when he got the ball and when he lost the ball, you could see he was trying his absolute hardest to win it back, and you could see that he was using his brain when he needed to. He was putting himself in the way of challenges. He was putting himself in the way of opposition players to win, you know, very crafty fouls as well. And I think that shows that once he is at full fitness, once, you know, his sharpness is there, he's going to be a top player for Everton. And again, same with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, same with the rest of the lads. Let's just get behind him. Let's not jump on his back because he's had one, you know, not fantastic performance in his opening game. Let's get behind him and say, well, you know what? You're brought in at a time that you probably didn't expect it. You probably weren't at full fitness. You know, you'd had a week's worth of training, if that. So, you know, let's get behind him. He'll have had another week's worth of training before Saturday's game against Watford. So, hopefully, we see a more improved Gbamin. And like I said, hopefully his fitness and his sharpness is there. In regards to Moise Kean, obviously, he come on a little bit later on in the game. Again, touched on him briefly earlier on the team. Didn't see much of him at all. Don't think he touched the ball in the opposition box. But again, that's not necessarily his fault. That's because there wasn't any balls given to him in the opposition box. And we're not going to see him shoot if he doesn't get the ball near their goal. However, like I said, again, very similar to Gbamin. He was using his brain. His movement was good. His ability off the ball looked there as well. It was just a case of when he was on the ball, again, got caught a couple of times. His touch wasn't as good as you would have liked it to be. And however, again, you've got to take into consideration that he's been in training for less than a week. He's in a whole new country, a whole new league, a whole new environment. So it is going to take these lads a couple of weeks to settle in. And that's why I think I've taken this Morgan Schneiderlin situation a little bit to heart, and I've gone a little bit serious on that, because we've now got no option but to play Jean-Philippe Gbamin on Saturday against Watford. And it's very, very clear that Marco Silva wanted to bed him in. He wanted to slowly bring him in. He wanted to slowly introduce him to the league by bringing him off the bench. Same with Moise Kean. And now we've got no choice but to play him. And I don't want that to have a knock-on effect on his performances. I don't want that to affect the player, because that would be a real shame. Yeah, like I said, so the two debutants obviously coming in. Jean-Philippe Gbamin coming in a little bit earlier than hoped for. Moise Kean coming in probably around the right time. Didn't see an awful lot of either of them, but what we seen looked decent, it looked positive. It just looked like they were, you know, lacking a little bit of fitness and sharpness, and that is to be expected, of course. Hopefully after another couple of weeks training, another few minutes under the belt in the Premier League, and we'll start to see the real qualities that these players possess. Furthermore, it's a posh word, isn't it? Moving on anyway, I want to talk about the defence for a second, because I think for me, the defence was absolutely fantastic. Like I said, it was a fear for all of us going into this season. It was a fear for all of us coming out of Thursday's transfer window. We spoke very openly about how, you know, we were left sort of short in the centre-back positions. We were left, you know, worrying about the centre-back positions, and I think we were all right to feel like that, and all are still right to feel like that. However, it was quite clear on Saturday that the partnership between Yerry Mina and Michael Keane can be absolutely fantastic. I think Yerry Mina was man of the match. He was an absolute brute. He won everything in the air. He dealt with everything on the floor, and again, he used his strength and he used his ability. And I thought about this when I was in work today, and I was thinking about it, and I wanted to bring it up on today's stream. Obviously, we didn't see a lot of Yerry Mina last season due to his injuries and due to obviously fitness issues. And when we did see him, he did look a little bit hot and cold. He had some games where he was absolutely fantastic, Chelsea away, for example, in his debut. And then he had some games where you're thinking, oh my God, he's like a giraffe on ice. Obviously, you've seen a different Yerry Mina on Saturday. You've seen a very solid performance, not many mistakes whatsoever. His positioning was good, his play on the ball was very confident as well. And I was thinking in work today, maybe Yerry Mina had a little bit going on in his brain last season. Maybe he was thinking, I'm struggling with injury, I've got to beat these injuries, and then he's got to compete with the likes of Kurt Zouma and Michael Keane for a first team place as well. Obviously, there's no competition now for Yerry Mina. He knows he's going to be in that starting 11 week in, week out, and maybe that takes the pressure away from him a little bit. Maybe that gives him a little bit more confidence, because last season, not only was he having to fight injury, not only was he having to fight, getting back to fitness, but he was also having to fight, getting into the team and getting his opportunities because Kurt Zouma was on such good form and because Michael Keane was on such good form as well. So maybe having that pressure taken off him with not having, a Kurt Zouma to come in, not having an experienced centre-half to come in, maybe that's, benefits his performances a little bit, and maybe he's now sort of thinking, well, you know what, I don't have to stress, I don't have to worry, I know that, I've got my place in this team, so I'm just going to calm myself and I'm going to play to the best of my ability. And obviously we've seen a fantastic Yerry Mina on Saturday afternoon. Again, Michael Keane, another solid performance carrying on from how we ended last season, and defensively from Luca Dean and Seamus Coleman. I've got no worries about them either. It still is worrying, of course, because you can't stop an injury happening, you can't stop a suspension happening. However, if they remain fit and available for every single game this season, then I'd be more than happy. I think they're a solid partnership, and I think they were fantastic on Saturday afternoon. If you're not enjoying this team so far, please do hit that like button. It really means a massive amount to me. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button as well. Where are we in the live comments? Where are we? Luke says we missed Delph on Saturday. I agree, spot on. Ian says here Delph is out for a month or so. Yeah, around 3 weeks to a month. Evertonian TV says, Ian, where did you hear that? And Ian says, I think I heard it on Toffee TV. Yeah, he's around 3 weeks to a month. Everton have confirmed he has a little bit of an injury. Hopefully he returns to fitness as soon as possible, and hopefully the Andre Gomez situation isn't like that at all. Jeff says, newsflash, footballers act childish. They're grown men playing a kid's game professionally and we're all obsessed. Childish is what we all are. I agree, spot on, I agree. And we'll leave it at that one. Luke says, I thought Tom Davies should have come on for Andre Gomez. Maybe it would have been a little bit more of a fit. It would have benefited Gbamin, definitely. But I dare say Marco Silva probably thought, you know what, we're in a situation now, let's stick this player who we've paid £25 million for, let's bring him on and see what he's got. But maybe Tom would have been a little bit more of a suitable fit. I agree. Evertonian TV says, Ian Clark, alright, thanks. Evertonian TV also says, Luke, good point, my biggest argument for Marco was not bringing Davis on for Gomez. Fair enough. Jeff says, shame for Delph, but big miss for us. He could add some steel to our spines, and also Schneiderlin cannot do what Gay did, that's why no Davis for Gomez. I agree. I don't think anybody could do what Idrissa Gana Gay did. I think the closest player to what Idrissa Gana Gay can bring us is Jean-Philippe Gbamin, but obviously he's going to take time to settle in. Ian says Gbamin will be boss for us. I agree. Jeff says Gomez breaks up play, but Davis does not. Fair enough. Jeff says agreed, long term I think he'll turn into an upgrade. I think he will. It's just a matter of time, and it's just about giving him that time to bed into the league. Jeff also says we have the second best defence in the league. In 2019 apparently only City have more clean sheets. Yeah, we went on a roll where I think the last goal we conceded at Goodison Park was against Manchester City, if I'm being correct. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was. So we had a pretty solid defensive record towards the back end of last season, definitely, especially at home. Jeff says Mina was a kid, he's still young in a second new country and with an injury and language barrier to contend with. I agree, spot on. And there's going to be struggles with Yerry Mina's performances as well. And again, that may be another reason as to why he didn't quite hit the ground running last season, but hopefully we see many more performances like the one we seen on Saturday afternoon. Anyway, that's all for the talk of the game. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. What did you think about the performance? Did you think it was a typical opening game of the season like I did? What do you think about the Morgan Schneiderlin situation? Are you upset with Morgan Schneiderlin, or do you just think it was one of those situations and it is what it is and he'll come back? What did you think about the debuts of Jean-Philippe Gbamin and Moise Kean as well? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Leave the video stream a like if you're not enjoying it as well, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Moving on now, briefly talk about Henry Onyekuru's move. So it was announced yesterday by the club that winger Henry Onyekuru had left Everton officially, permanently, finally, and joined the Monaco on a 5-year deal after gaining a work visa. Now obviously, a little bit of a strange one for us Evertonians. We've never seen Henry Onyekuru playing an Everton shirt. Obviously, we loaned him out to Anderlecht. We loaned him out to Galatasaray. We've seen how, good he was for them in the Champions League last season. A real talent, obviously. Could never play for Everton due to issues, again, with work permits and, not being able to get one due to not being, playing enough international games. Obviously, signed for around £7 million in the Koeman and Walsh era, and we've sold him for around €15 million. So we've made a profit on a player that we've never seen play for Everton. Now, the reason this is a little bit hot and cold for me and for a lot of Evertonians is because, again, the positives are he didn't have much of an involvement in the squad. He wouldn't have much involvement in the squad this season because, again, he failed to get a work permit. We've made double what we paid for him. However, the disappointing part is that, he is such a talented player. It's very, very clear to see. He's fantastically talented. He's a really, really promising talent. He was fantastic for Galatasaray last season, and a fantastic season for them. He was brilliant in the Champions League as well. So again, it is disappointing to see him leave, to have not seen him ever play for Everton. However, I think we have to look on the surface, and that is the fact that it wasn't looking like he was going to play for Everton anytime soon. We were only holding up his career. We were only keeping a player on the wage bill that wasn't, able to play. So I think the deal makes sense, and it is a disappointing one, but it is what it is, isn't it? We move on from that one. And finally, last bit of news for today is that Everton will be ball number 3 in today's Carabao Cup second round draw. I believe the draw's around 9:30ish. It's after one of the games tonight, so don't forget to keep an eye out on Twitter and keep an eye out on that one. I'll be doing a little bit of a video later on to say who we have drawn and talk a little bit about that game as well. So keep an eye on that one. Jeff says correct. Thank you very much, Jeff. And Chan says, Cam, what do you think of Beningame? I think he's a decent midfielder. I don't necessarily think he's Premier League ready yet. And I think, like I said, a loan move will definitely do him good for his career. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's team. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, please do hit a massive like on the stream. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. Just hit 700 subscribers, so massive thank you for that, as per usual. On the road now to 1,000, really close to that, of course. If you have enjoyed today, like I said, hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts on everything that was spoken about in today's team. Let me know your thoughts on Saturday's game, as well as obviously Henry Onyekuru's move to Monaco. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for another live stream. We'll be talking about the Bramley Moore Docks, obviously our new stadium on Bramley Moore Docks. We'll be talking about the images released a couple of weeks ago. We'll be talking about Dan Mize's plans, and we'll also be talking about the regeneration of Goodison Park as well. So don't forget to join us at 6:15 for another live stream tomorrow. Like I said, I'll be doing a brief video later on today discussing who we have drawn in the second round of the Carabao Cup, so look out for that one. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter as well at Mighty Blues YT for all the latest Everton news and information as well. Jeff says Onyekuru had a bit too much Lukaku about him, always talking about himself and his career. No great loss. Fair enough. And Jeff also says, cheers, Cam, latest, mate. Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you very much for getting involved in the live comments as per usual. And thank you very much to everybody else for getting involved in the live comments as well. If you're watching this as a YouTube video, leave your comments in the comment section down below. We'll be reading them all night and replying to those as well. Once again, a massive thank you to everybody for watching today's stream. Please hit the like button if you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. I'll see you tomorrow at 6:15 for another live stream. Should be a really interesting one and a really positive one, talking about the new stadium as well. Anyway, that's going to do it from me. A massive thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.